Hello and welcome to the Force Friday show, the weekly show from Movie Burner Entertainment, where we discuss all things Star Wars, be it canon, movie related, anything relating into Star Wars. This week, Stephen, as I did say last Friday, we're going to be doing a very heavy Solo focused show. It's going to be a spoiler heavy review of the most recent standalone film, but first up we're going to discuss another little topic before we dive into that, which is Lucasfilm potentially developing movies on a slew of characters, including Obi-Wan Kenobi and Boba Fett. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. They broke the exclusive that James Mangold, of obviously Logan fame, is writing and will direct a Star Wars standalone movie centred on Boba Fett, the feared bounty hunter and fan favourite character. They've also went on to say in the article, Stephen, that there is a potential Obi-Wan Kenobi film in the works, and that Stephen Daldry of Billy Elliot fame is in negotiations to direct, but they have no writers or script. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, John, this dropped, I think, last week on Hollywood Reporter, as you said, and this is obviously before the results of the box office opening week of Solo: A Star Wars Story, which we'll get into later on in the show. Does the film have potential? It certainly does. After seeing Solo: A Star Wars Story, I think it does. There's been a lot of talk that people saying they didn't need a Han Solo story, and I understand that. After watching it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. People are saying the same thing about this Boba Fett rumour now. James Mangold is a terrific director. I enjoyed his take on the Wolverine character, Logan. One of the best comic book films ever made. If they were to do it, I would like to see them doing it in the tone of Logan, a kind of gritty western type feel. I'd like to see that. I don't know if it actually says, the timeline of this potential story, whether it's not after Return of the Jedi, he gets himself out of the Sarlacc, or if it's set round about the time of Solo: A Star Wars Story. I'm not sure. One of the things that I was disappointed about in Solo was that the bounty hunter didn't show up. It was one of the things I expected, but that's my fault. I went into that expecting that, and it didn't materialise. The other part of that story about the Obi-Wan film as well, someone came up with a good theory that they would like to see some kind of interconnecting storylines, Tarantino style, if you like, with the Solo standalone film, potential Boba Fett film, and an Obi-Wan, and all set around the same time period. Could that work? It depends. Han Solo would have to be out the picture round about when Darth Maul or Obi-Wan were on screen. He cannot see any of this. He doesn't believe in the Force at this point in his life, and that little spoiler, we'll certainly get into it a lot more in the next topic, John. This has opened up a can of worms online with all these potential storylines now coming out. A lot of people confused that they saw this character re-emerge, but if you'd been following the animated series, it doesn't come as a surprise, the kind of state that the Sith Lord is in at this point in his life. But James Mangold to direct a Boba Fett film, I think I would be on board with that. This is only because I was quite satisfied with Solo: A Star Wars Story, and I didn't think I would be. I didn't think there was a need for it, but I enjoyed it, and I think I would enjoy a James Mangold Boba Fett story.
Yes. Now I'll touch on a few of the points you made there, Stephen. Firstly, you're right about Han Solo. You can't see Darth Maul or Obi-Wan at any point, because of course he says hokey religions or something like that are no match for a good blaster to your side. So he can't see him. I agree with that. But I do think if they are going to indeed continue on with plans to do a Boba Fett and Obi-Wan film, despite the flopping performance of Solo at the box office, who knows whether it will remain a flop. It may gather some momentum. There is a bit of time between that and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom releasing, so it may gather a bit of momentum, hopefully a little bit of positive word of mouth. Maybe some of these fans that are boycotting it the opening weekend will turn up and watch it, who knows. But if they do continue on with the plans, then I do think they will set it prior to the events of the original trilogy. I think we'll see them all interconnecting. They heavily hinted at it at the end of Solo: A Star Wars Story with Kira and Darth Maul, and if Boba Fett turns up, I think you'll see that as part of a criminal underworld sort of a thing, with him, Kira, Darth Maul, potentially Han Solo all coming together again, maybe even Lando as well, and having another little story. We did discuss Alden Ehrenreich. I think he had a free picture deal, so I do think that's what they'll do if they do continue on with this plan. They'll have it all interconnecting, and of course Obi-Wan and Darth Maul had a bit of a history. It had an on-off grudge match, so I can see Obi-Wan meeting Darth Maul at some point in a potential Obi-Wan standalone. If you're going to have a villain or an antagonist for Obi-Wan, it has to be someone in the ilk of a Darth Maul. You can't see him facing like the Emperor or something like that, because obviously that would be ridiculous. There's maybe the chance that you could see him facing up against Darth Vader and having a little scuffle with him, but if I was to be a betting man and they continue on with these plans, I can see it all interconnecting with Solo. In regards to Mangold coming in to direct and write it, I'm absolutely delighted with that. I completely agree with you, Stephen. He's a great director. He's done a fantastic job with Wolverine and Logan. Absolutely phenomenal film, that. It was a gritty western film, and it's probably one of the best comic book films I've seen in a long, long time. If he could do that with a Boba Fett film, then he'd go a long way to making that film a success despite the recent standalones' flopping nature. It does say in this article from The Hollywood Reporter as well that Simon Kinberg is involved, or maybe I'm reading another article here, who knows, but Simon Kinberg, who also produced the Rebels series, is going to come in and co-write it with him, so that's great that they're getting a guy of that calibre in as well. They're getting all the right people in to work on this. If it is going to be a Boba Fett film, then I do want to see it prior to the original trilogy. There's been a lot of people debate whether he get out of the Sarlacc pit. I have no doubt in my mind to get out of the Sarlacc pit, but we don't want to see a film taking place after that. I want to see him in his prime, mixing with a young Han Solo, and perhaps Jabba the Hutt and Bosk and the likes of that. Dengar, I think his name is. That's what I want to see. I want to see a good criminal underworld film set after the events of Solo and interconnecting. But I'm excited for this. Hopefully it will be a thing despite Solo's modest flopping nature at the box office, and we'll get a slew of standalone films in the future. But just moving on, Stephen, we are going to discuss Solo, a Star Wars story, and give our thoughts on what we made of it all. And we're going to do this via some questions. I'm going to fire into you, Stephen. You can give your opinion, then I'll come in with my opinion, because I noticed when we have done these reviews before, we're all over the place. We're going back and forward and discussing things, so if we structure it through questions, then that will maybe keep it in order. First question I've got is about the story. Did it meet your expectations, or did it fall short? What did you make of the story? Were you bored with it? Was it exciting? I don't know. What did you make of it?
It was a little run-of-the-mill, John, to be honest with you. This film really relied heavily on its visuals and its score. Storyline, the trailer, you know, like most trailers, are a little misleading. Thought this was going to be this massive heist film. We thought the train scenes in the trailer were going to be a main part in it. They were only in it for about 5-10 minutes. It was a great sequence, no doubt about it. I enjoyed that part, but the story, I did like the opening 45 minutes. A lot of people criticised the pacing of it, etc., but I liked it. I thought it was giving us a little bit of origins to Han Solo and Kira and their relationship and their sort of desperate life at this point in the film, and desperately tried to escape Corellia. Gave you a good impression of where the Empire was at this period in time as well, and the effects of the Empire. I think Ron Howard highlighted this in that commentary that he did for the behind the scenes thing, that it was going to be, although the Empire weren't going to be heavily involved in the film, their impact was going to be noticeable, and it certainly was in that first 45 minutes. I quite liked the pacing at this point in the storyline. The other thing I liked as well, the film tied a lot of loose ends up near the end. I quite liked the way they did a lot of it. A lot of the questions that were sort of asked in The Empire Strikes Back from 1980 was answered in this movie. I liked the way they wrote the characters as well, especially Lando and Han's relationship. I quite enjoyed that. A lot of funny moments in there. So as far as the storyline goes, it was very run-of-the-mill. A lot of it was predictable. There wasn't any great surprises. Perhaps that little twist at the end was probably the most surprising part of the story, but overall it was okay.
Yeah, that kind of echoes my sentiments on this film as well, Stephen. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was decent to good. Wasn't outstanding by any means. It's certainly not going to touch any of the top films that I have in my ranking of Star Wars releases, but it was a decent enough film, and I did enjoy the story for the most part. I felt if I was to nitpick and pick out some weaknesses, I do think the story would probably be one of the slight weaknesses, though. That doesn't mean it was terrible by any means, but it was just a little bit lacklustre. And yeah, as you says, that train sequence at the start, they could have switched that about and had the train sequence somehow play a part in the castle setup. I don't know how they could have done it, but it would have had a little bit more oomph. But I did enjoy that train sequence, although I have to say Val's death was a little bit anticlimactic. I think they probably gambled on the audience caring more about Beckett and Val than they perhaps ended up doing. I didn't care about Val at this point, so when she killed herself on the bridge to save them, it was no impact on me at all. In terms of the other characters and their impact in the story, the droid was annoying as hell to me at the start. She grew on me after a while. All that comment she makes about equal rights, I was just cringing at that. I did enjoy the flashback sequence. I don't know if you can call it a flashback sequence, but the earlier shots of Han and Kira on Corellia added some emotional impact to their relationship in the film. I enjoyed the speeder chase. Enfy's Nest was just a permanent nuisance in the film. I despised her until she took the helmet off. The introduction of Lando was great. It was organic the way they did it. I loved Beckett's impact throughout the whole film. He was a two-faced git at the end, but he was a likeable chap nonetheless. I liked the little twirls of the guns that he was doing. Yeah, I mean, I thought the story was probably the weakest part if I was to nitpick, but it wasn't terrible by any means. As I says, it was decent enough. It kept me engrossed for the most part, and the Kessel Run bit was okay as well. I thought the bit with the Maw, I think it was called, with the jettison the escape ship, I think you actually missed that, Stephen. But that was okay, that was cool visually. And the way they tied it in at the end and the little cameo, which we'll get into, that was all very cool. But we'll move on to the next question, Stephen, and that is performances. Who was your favourite performance? Who was your standout performer in this film in terms of actors, not characters? We'll get into that afterwards.
Probably Woody Harrelson for me. I thought his presence in the film was needed. It was certainly the Han Solo mentor that we expected him to be, almost like Michael Rooker's character in the Guardians of the Galaxy. That sort of mentor for the main character. Alden Ehrenreich, I felt, nailed Han Solo. Didn't nail Harrison Ford, that's what we were wanting. You know, we didn't want him to do a out and out impression of the famous actor. He certainly didn't. A lot of little traits in there. I think after a few viewings you'll notice them. The finger pointing one, the most obvious one, but just his style and his tone, I felt he just nailed it. Woody Harrelson and Alden Ehrenreich's relationship throughout the film had great chemistry. You know, it was almost predictable when he warned him that, you know, don't trust anyone, what was going to happen there. It reminded me of, I can't remember the character's name, but it was the chap that friended Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, and it turned out he was a Nazi sympathiser. It was very similar to that. Emilia Clarke, this is her best performance to date. I was very concerned going into this film for her role and how her performance would go. After seeing Terminator Genesis, I wasn't sure if she was up to the task of any big blockbuster films, certainly in her comfort zone in the Game of Thrones series, but here she just blended right in. I think, as you know, I previously mentioned, that first 45 minutes was very important for both of those characters and the actors playing them. Donald Glover as well, the guy just oozes smooth, you know, he's just so classy and cool and everything you expect from the character of Lando. And his interactions with Alden Ehrenreich were just so natural, as if they're best friends, really, you know, the way it came across. But some of their scenes were so funny as well, and it wasn't forced humour. That was one of the things I didn't like about The Last Jedi. You know, they sort of took away that Star Wars humour and replaced it with Marvel humour. This was certainly Star Wars humour in this movie, which I enjoyed. There was a few laugh out moments there. Paul Bettany as well. You know what you're getting with Paul Bettany. I've been a big fan of his for many years now. You know, a lot of people were very disappointed with his character. Yeah, it was a bit underwhelming. I understand that. You know, there wasn't any main antagonist in the movie. Well, or so we thought till the last 5 minutes of the movie. But his character and his performance, I should say, is probably one of the best ones. But for me, Woody Harrelson was a standout.
Yes, it's difficult for me to pick a standout, Stephen. I would have to agree with you about Woody. I thought, as I said earlier, the Beckett character was brilliant. He had that sort of outlaw, cowboyish, roguish element. You can see a lot of that character rubbing off in Han Solo when you meet him later on. It's clear that he took a lot of inspiration from his mentoring and guiding hand. And that moment at the end where he says to him, "Now think twice" or something like that, or think about what you're going to do next, and he just shoots him in the chest. That was class. That told me this is him developing into the guy we know by the time of A New Hope, where he shoots first. And despite George's attempts to say otherwise, he does shoot first. So yeah, I would agree. Woody Harrelson was brilliant as Beckett. I thoroughly enjoyed Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. I thought that was one of the big positives I took away from the film. There was a lot of criticisms of him prior to this about him getting acting coaches in, but I thought he nailed it. He didn't do an impression of Harrison Ford. You can't do that for 2 hours and 15 minutes, despite people wanting that Anthony Gruber in. That wouldn't have worked at all. You can't do a 2 hour plus impression of another actor. I thought he took the role and he made it his own. The voice was a little bit jarring at the start, but 20 minutes in you start to forget about it and you just focus on the performance as a whole, and I thought he nailed it. Donald Glover, just an incredibly talented chap. What can you say about him? Obviously he's famed for Atlanta, but I thought he nailed the Lando Calrissian role. Everyone expected this to be the case. We were talking about that in the trailers that released, that he looked and felt like him. I thought it was eerie at moments just how close he got to Billy D. Williams' voice as well. I agree, the chemistry between him and Alden was on point. They had great humour between them. That moment where Han puts his arm round him and he looks down at the destroyed Millennium Falcon and says it's a beautiful ship in it, and he just turns to him and says, I hate you. We were discussing that as well, Stephen. That was like a little Easter egg moment that went perhaps under the radar with us when Han replies with I know. So that was great. I loved their relationship together. The other main relationship we have to speak about, there's a couple other ones, but I'm going to discuss this one next, is obviously Kira and Han Solo. I completely agree. I had my reservations about Emilia Clarke coming in, because she's just been a little bit wooden in performances out with Game of Thrones. I think the best one was the one with the cripple chap. But I thought she was great in this. I really did. I thought she was brilliant. She had some great moments with Han Solo. I loved the theme, the score that was surrounding much of their interactions. She was quite multifaceted as well, in that she did have the romantic element with Han, but then she turned out to be quite a ruthless and steely character at the end as well. And there was hints of that prior to the reveal that we see at the end of the film. But I believe it's Beckett's trying to hint to Han that she's done some terrible things. There's more to this character than you think. She's not the woman you knew back in Corellia. But she was great as well. I'm giving it on. But there was another couple of good performances. Obviously Paul Bettany was, you know what you're getting with Paul Bettany. He was great as Dryden Voss. He wasn't a main big bad antagonist. He was kind of a floating around the periphery. But I thought he was quite ominous, quite foreboding at times. You could tell he was quite a psychotic chap. I think there's a moment where he slices one of the governors of the planet's stomach open and he says, I'm getting all excited here. And yeah, I mean, he just had that ominous feel about him, despite him not being a big bad, literally threatening the characters throughout. Jonas Suotamo as well as Chewbacca. I'm growing to like this guy more and more the more I see of him in interviews and stuff like that, and I'm really happy that he's been cast as Chewbacca going forward. He's just a dead likeable chap. He's nailed that Chewie vocal as well. He just does it on point. So really happy that he's getting the role. Also, we can't discuss overall acting performances, but he nails Chewbacca. Phoebe Waller-Bridge as well as the droid. As I said, I couldn't stand that bloody droid's voice at the start. It just reminded me of Captain Phasma. But yeah, I mean, she was okay for what she was. I don't know if you've got anything more to add to that, Stephen, or do you want me to fire into another question?
The only one, before we move on, John, is Thandie Newton's character. Very easily disposed of. A lot of people saying that she was killed off. She wasn't actually killed off. She self-sacrificed herself for for the rest of the crew. I would have liked to have seen more of the character. She was quite interesting in the screen time that she was in the movie, but I suppose that's part of the character and part of the character's story, and that sacrificing her own life to save the rest of them, kind of worked. But from the actor's point of view, it was a shame because she's a great actress,
Yeah, and it did kind of add some emotional base to the Beckett character as well, because you feel like she was probably the only character they did trust. Jon Favreau as well. This alien character, that was it gave me Rocket vibes from Guardians of the Galaxy, but again, he got killed off way too early for me. He got killed off ridiculously early, but you felt these characters had to make way for Lando and the L337 droid, or whatever the hell it was called, because it would have been too busy, and there would have been too much screen time getting shared. But I'll move on to the next question. What for you was probably the most memorable moment in the film, if you had a memorable moment?
Probably, during the Kessel Run, I felt that part where the Star Destroyer appears. Yeah. I thought visually that was amazing. This is really where the story picked up pace, and it felt this is a bit of a cliche thing to say, but it felt like a Star Wars movie at this point. That's not to say the rest of it didn't, but this was like classic Star Wars. It was classic Han Solo as well, very cool under pressure, and I liked that whole sequence. A lot of people I've saw online have moaned about the visuals in this that were kind of weak. I can understand that. There was a few glaring obvious CG moments in there that possibly will age in time. And the other moment I thought that stood out to me was obviously the reveal. You know, and that goes back to what we were talking about before, the relationship. This was a relationship that was revealed that we didn't know about between Kira and the former Sith Lord Darth Maul, who we all thought, you know, was a goner if you've not seen the animated series. But that was a great moment, I've got to say. Fan service, possibly, but it does open up, you know, as I was talking about earlier, the can of worms where this will lead to. I said to you after the movie it might not lead to anywhere, it might have just been a cameo, because certainly don't really have to put Darth Maul in any other movies because he is part of the canon. His story continues on in the animated series anyway. I think between this film, Solo, A Star Wars Story, and the point that Darth Maul is killed off as a 9-year period, so there is room to use him again in that period. But those were the two main moments in the film that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I think he dies a year before the events of A New Hope, so there's plenty of scope for them to come back in and introduce this character into other stories. Yeah, I have to agree that the Darth Maul moment is the standout moment for me. It's just absolutely amazing when you see that character. Although the fact that he does ignite the lightsaber, that annoyed me. I'm like, we know who you are. We don't need to ignite the double bladed lightsaber to let us know that you're Darth Maul. But the moment with the fling and the music, I think there may have been a Duel of Fates moment in there, and that was just epic. Other memorable moments, the moment that mountain kind of implodes, that was cool. That gave me Attack of the Clones vibes when those sonic explosives were going off. I think it was Jango Fett that was throwing them at Obi-Wan. Other moments, I loved the speeder chase I mentioned earlier, that was great. And just seeing Chewbacca letting it rip and literally ripping arms off of people. And just that sequence with him on Kessel, although that brings up memories of that other Wookiee. It looked like a horrendous Planet of the Apes sort of a mask. It just looked terrible. But that was an epic moment, seeing him working with the other enslaved Wookiees and just kicking the absolute shit out of those guards on Kessel. There was a few memorable moments. I did enjoy the war scenes earlier on with Beckett twirling these pistols and just barking out orders. Obviously gets revealed that he's a bit of a fraud, he isn't a captain. But yeah, that moment as well, with the Star Destroyer appearing, and then the moment that comes after that where they're getting dragged into the maw, visually that was absolutely astonishing. It gave me hints of Toy Story 3 when they're all going into the incinerator, but it was very, very cool. In terms of the CG, I completely agree. There was some iffy moments. That moment on Kessel when they land, I says to you after the film, that is not going to age well. That's an Attack of the Clones moment for sure. 10 years from now, that's going to look absolutely terrible. But yeah, I thought there was a few memorable moments in there, but my standout without a shadow of a doubt is Darth Maul. Now the next question I'm going to ask Stephen is what you thought of this score, because obviously Rogue One get lots of criticism for its score. Obviously Michael Giacchino, I think, had maybe 2 weeks to work on this. I can't remember who the chap is that works on this score. I'll find it out by the time I come back in, but what was your thoughts on the score?
Yeah, the name escapes me as well, John. I know that John Williams had written a specific theme for this movie, which was well used. There was a bit, I think 3/4 through the film I enjoyed. It was like kind of I don't know if it was like females or children chanting. I don't know if you remember that part. I think it was near the end. It was a great piece of music. Overall, the score was great. At the moment, we've only saw the movie once, so it's very hard to sort of pinpoint standout musical scores. Using some of the old ones, the Duel of Fates, as you mentioned, the other one from Empire Strikes Back when they're going through the asteroid field.
Yeah, that was great.
I can't remember what that one's called, but I liked that. That moment as well. That I think it was during the Kessel Run chase that was used in A New Hope as well for the Death Star. There's a lot of standout moments. I'd have to actually look at the track listings, to name them. But overall, I felt it was a better score than Rogue One. Although Rogue One had some memorable moments, the Battle of Scarif theme at the very end was very emotional. There wasn't very many emotional musical scores in this film, but it felt like a Star Wars score.
Yeah, it did. That's what I was going to just add in, Stephen. It did feel more like Star Wars than Rogue One. I didn't mind the Rogue One score, but there was moments where it felt like a generic sci-fi film. but that's probably down to Michael Giacchino only having 2 weeks to create the score. John Powell was the chap that done the scoring for this film. I did enjoy the John Williams Hans theme. It wasn't remarkable by any means, it's not one of his best themes. Certainly Ray and the likes of Elias theme and the Jules Sunsets, I think it's called, they are iconic themes. But the way they did introduce some of the more known, more memorable themes in there was quite cool. As I mentioned earlier, the Duel of Fates, that moment from The Empire Strikes Back in the asteroid field, that was probably my standout moment. That was just great hearing that again. That's synonymous with the Falcon, the Millennium Falcon. The other little thing I liked was the Imperial March when Han's on Corelli and he's going over to the recruiting desk. That was a cool little moment. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the score. I thought it was quite cool. It says about middle of the way through the film that I was really enjoying the score, so that's another good positive for this film in the midst of a lot of criticism and disappointment and coming from all quarters. But I'll move on swiftly because I've not got much more to add to that. We did discuss the visuals. I was going to ask a question about that. I don't think we can go into any more depth on the visuals really. So I'll fire into the next one, which is, did you notice any shifts in tone throughout the film that might indicate that there was Lord and Miller sections in this film? Did you pick up anything? I can't lie, I didn't pick up anything myself. I didn't notice anything.
The tone shifts. It certainly does. There's no doubt about it. The tone shifts from the first part of the film. The first 45 minutes of the film is very war-torn and depressing. You know, there's some light moments in there, but I felt as the movie went on, it got lighter and a bit more humorous. I couldn't not pick out the Lord and Miller parts if you asked me to. I wouldn't know. I'm not really well versed in their sort of style. Obviously, I've seen a couple of their movies, but not enough to know exactly what input they had in this movie. I know it was nice to see their names come up at the credits at the very end. It was the least they could do at Lucasfilm and Disney. The only bit that really bugged me in the film was the naming in the Han Solo. It really annoyed me. It felt really forced. I don't really want to turn this movie review into, slagging the film, but this was really, I just rolled my eyes in the cinema when this bit came up. It just sounded so forced, and it really annoyed me that Han wasn't born Han Solo. He was just called Han, and and even the line, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something along the lines of, I've got no family, I'm all alone, or whatever it was. I can't remember. And he's, this Imperial officer says, I'll call you Solo then, and I just felt it was a terrible line, and it was a terrible moment in the movie that didn't serve any purpose. There was no point to it. It should have just been called Han Solo from the very beginning. That's what we're used to. It just didn't serve any purpose. I don't know who put that line in, but wow.
Yeah, I do wonder whether that moment where they go into the canteen or the bar in Dryden Voss's ship, and you get that little alien in the tank singing along with the women. I wonder whether that was a Lord and Miller moment. I wonder whether that was a Ron Howard moment, because whoever was responsible for that needs shot in the head. But I didn't mind the song, actually. In actual fact, it was quite soulful.
I think that might have been a George Lucas moment, actually.
Yeah, that could have been a George Lucas moment. Funnily enough, Ron Howard did mention a couple of weeks ago that he had some advice for him, so maybe he says, fire in that, because I added in that classic moment with the strange Men in Black kind of an alien in Jabba's palace, so maybe he did fire in that one. I don't know, Stephen. I didn't notice any real scenes or things happening in the film that might indicate this was a Lord and Miller section. Can't lie, like you, I'm not that well versed that I could maybe pick up on it. In terms of any other questions I would have, Stephen, I was going to discuss the Easter eggs, but we kind of discussed prior to this. We didn't really pick up on the great many of the Easter eggs. I know there was a moment where a bounty hunter maybe dies from Clone Wars. It's hinted that Beckett kills her, and I think he says, well, I didn't really kill her. Technically, it was a fall that killed her. There was a couple of little things in there. I think there was mentions of Bosk, and obviously Darth Maul's probably the biggest one.
Scarif was mentioned as well, as I recall.
Yeah.
But I think most of the Easter eggs were mostly vehicles or, land speeder and stuff like that. I heard a few audio moments in the film from stormtroopers talking about the latest land speeder or something. I think they did that in Rogue One as well, and some of the ships as well. But as you said, Bosk was probably the most standout name drop in there, I felt. But as I said before, I think I'd have to see the movie again to really notice the Easter eggs. I was enjoying the film, for what it was. That I did the reverse of what I did with Ready Player One, where I was just totally engrossed in looking for every Easter egg and missed the whole story. This was the reverse of that. I would have to go and see it again to see more. There's certainly, from what I hear, it's littered with Easter eggs, and I think a second viewing is the order of the day.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's certainly no Ready Player One. The other couple I could think of is maybe just general fan service, not so much Easter eggs. The whole Sabat game, I liked the way they handled that. And just the way Lando was cheating. He was a cheating git with that secret little pouch in his arm, for the holder in his arm for the card. And the way that played out at the end, I thought that was quite ingenious. You touched upon that earlier though, Stephen, the way they highlighted a couple of things for Empire Strikes Back. Really enjoyed that moment at the end where he wins and he does him out of the Falcon by taking away his card. Other question I would have before we give our overall impression and thoughts on the film and maybe talk about the box office performance would be, I know earlier I discussed acting performances, but what was your standout character in the film? Not so much actor, but just standout character. Was it Chewbacca, Beckett, Han, Lando? I don't know.
Probably Han. You know, he is a great character, and it was always going to be a concern going into this film how he would be portrayed by another actor. There's no doubt about it. You know, it was a concern for everyone. I think the actor pulled it off, but I liked the story of Han, although I didn't like the fact that he wasn't born with a surname. But you know, ignoring that, I liked it illustrated where he came from, his struggle in life. He was, you know, a suppressed soul, you know, in love with Kira, and you know that was his focus, to get both of them out of the city to freedom. And I liked that part of it. As the film grew on, I can understand why Han Solo, the character, is the way he is in A New Hope. He's more of a cynical character by this point, and you can see why. I think if there is more standalone films involving this character, there'll be another, you know, twists and turns with his relationships with other mentors and etc. How that will play out, I don't know. And his relationship with Jabba the Hutt as well, that turns him into what we know him to be. Very early on in this film, I liked the sort of positive and ambitious character that he was, and by the end he's more closer to the way we know him in A New Hope. So I felt the character of Han. Chewbacca as well, I felt this was Chewbacca's film just as much. This is probably the most prominent we saw the character in any of the Star Wars films, and it was great to see that first meeting. It was a great sequence, you know, the pit that he was in was covered in mud. It was called The Beast, but it was a bit obvious who we were getting introduced at this point. But Han Solo for me, you know, obviously the main character in the movie, it's his film, it's titled his film as well. I really enjoyed that character.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me, Steve, because there was a couple that stood out. Obviously Chewbacca, Lando and Han. I would probably have to, if I had my arm twisted, probably go for Han as well. I don't think I can add much more onto why Han was a standout character. You've done a good job of it yourself there. I just thought it was a great standalone story for the character. It was a great origin story for him. It gave us an indicator of why he became the man he did, but you get into that yourself. The other one that would be a close second for me would probably be Chewbacca. I just thought it was amazing seeing him absolutely tearing it up, as I said earlier, tearing arms out of sockets. Having his same stupid moment with the hollow chessboard, whatever the hell it's called, and I think you said that it was the same move that C-3PO or R2-D2 pulls on him in A New Hope, and he clearly doesn't learn a thing. So he's clearly not the most intelligent character, despite being a handy companion when it comes to fighting and ripping people's arms out of their sockets. I did enjoy that moment after that, where he was sitting in the chair, just reflecting on his loss to Beckett. And that was quite a funny moment. But yeah, these would be Han as well, and Chewbacca a close second. It was a great scene how those two iconic characters came together. Sadly we didn't get to see him with his crossbow, but we saw him use just about every other item and stuff like that to put the absolute shit out of people. And sadly we didn't get to see Kashyyyk, despite a lot of hints and speculation that we were going to go there. We didn't see it at all, so I don't know where the hell that came from. Whoever made that rumour up needs shot as well. But yeah, I'm just going to move on to the final question before we discuss maybe the box office and round it up. What was your overall impressions and final thoughts on the film? Do you think it's deserving of flopping, or do you think that's very harsh on it? And did you think Ron Howard came in and done a good job of saving it?
I think this is a backlash from The Last Jedi, John. I think that's what it is. It's suffered because of the last movie. Because this movie, you know, I said this weeks ago that I was going to get into this with an open mind. Certainly did. Came out very satisfied, enjoyable. Not the greatest Star Wars film ever made. You know, I said to you, you know, and you said this as well, that both of us agree that it kind of slots in just behind Rogue One, as far as you know, Star Wars films, how we rate them. That's not to say it's a bad film. It certainly isn't. It was very enjoyable, had its moments. As far as Ron Howard, unless we saw the the early versions of Lord and Miller. It's very hard to compare just how much he saved this film. Very much the same as Tony Gilroy with Gareth Edwards' Rogue One. We just don't know how much of a state the film was in before the director came in. Ron Howard's an accomplished director, has been for the last 2-3 decades. He's made some classic movies. He's certainly the guy to go to in these kind of instances when your movie is in trouble. I think he did a good job. You know what you're getting with Ron Howard. He gets Star Wars, he's a Star Wars fan himself, and you can't ask any more of that. I think he did his best, and I think it worked. As far as the box office, which we'll go into in a little minute, John, I think it's as I said, I think a lot of Star Wars fans are a little bit soured at the moment, but I think this film will grow. It's not going to perform well, unfortunately. This is what we were hoping it would perform well, because it might hinge on more standalone films. But I think overall it was enjoyable. I enjoyed it, and I think I'll go back and see it again.
Yeah, I share much of those sentiments as I have done throughout the whole review of this film. I thought it was just a fun, enjoyable, light-hearted, lighter-toned film. Complete antithesis of The Last Jedi. It didn't try and shake up any of the mythology or anything like that. It was just a fun adventure. They went off and done a heist. We got to see some of the classic characters and how they got to know each other and come together. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't think it was absolutely outstanding by any means, but it done the job, and it was a decent to good film, as I said earlier. I would agree, it probably slots in behind Rogue One. I think it's slightly better than Revenge of the Sith overall, and yeah, that's where I would place it in my rankings. So it's not getting anywhere near the top 3 or even 4. It's probably maybe 6th or 7th or something. I don't know how the hell it slots in. I need to go back and do the maths, and I'm terrible at maths. But yeah, I think Ron Howard probably did do a good job in the end. As you say, you can't really say for sure unless you've seen the Lord and Miller cut. But I think he did a decent enough job, and he probably did come in and save it. By all accounts, it was an absolute car crash. But yeah, we'll move on to the final bit of discussion on Solo, and that is just discussing the box office. We can't polish a turd up here, Stephen. It's not done well. Box office performance wise, it's a turd. It's only earned about $100 million in a 4-day weekend. I think it earned just over $80 million in the 3-day weekend. This was a bank holiday weekend in the United States. It's the lowest performing, grossing Star Wars film, and it's got the biggest budget of any Star Wars film, certainly in Disney's era anyway. Why do I think this has turned out this way? I don't know. I think it's probably a combination of the release date changing that happened coming too soon after The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi was a highly divisive film anyway, but even if it was a fantastic film, releasing another Star Wars film 5 months, 6 months after, I don't think it's quite there yet where we're going to get 2 films a year. I think they were testing the water, and they've got their answer. It didn't work. The other reason is probably just the competition. You've got Avengers Infinity War and then Deadpool 2 coming out, and the combination of them and another Star Wars film coming out, 3 big blockbusters in as many weeks. Theatre goers and cinema goers have only got a set amount of money to spend and going to the cinema every month or every year. So most people probably only go to the cinema maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So I think that's had an impact. And then you've got people boycotting the film to try and get Kathleen Kennedy to sack. So that's an impact as well. But you can't polish a turd, it's doing terrible.
No, I mean, even taking away the fact that its budget was bloated, John, due to the reshooting and stuff like that. Lucasfilm have got to hold their hands up and be responsible for the decision in appointing Lord and Miller in the first place. That's not a slate on those directors. It just didn't work, but it should have been dealt with a lot sooner. And this cost the company a lot of money. You're right, John. I think being sandwiched in between Infinity War and Deadpool 2 wasn't the best move either. This is the first time in Star Wars cinematic history as well that the time gap between 2 movies is, it's the tightest it's ever been. In the old days, it used to be 3 years apart. The anticipation used to build up in between the episodes. Since 2015, it was Force Awakens. A year later, we got Rogue One. A year later, we get The Last Jedi. And then 4 or 5 months later, we're getting Solo, a Star Wars story. Mark Hamill, stressed that perhaps that Star Wars has been oversaturated at the moment. It possibly is. It's a double-edged sword, really, because we as Star Wars films want to see as many films as we can, but then we moan that they're too close together and it's oversaturated. I'm not saying everyone says this, but we are a fussy lot. I just think that The Last Jedi has had a bit of an effect on this movie. I said right after The Last Jedi when we spoke about it, it might have been January time, I said that Solo is the film we need now to bring us back to this, the way it used to be. We used to enjoy the Star Wars, lightheartedness, adventure elements of these stories, and not the sort of heavy philosophical experience that was The Last Jedi. So it's really going to have an effect on whether or not we're going to get 2 movies a year now, and whether or not a Star Wars story, these films are going to continue. I know they're talking about Lando films, they're talking about Boba Fett films and Obi-Wan films, but nothing's been confirmed yet. I expect sometime over the summer something will have to be announced, because we've got, I think it's 18 months or something like that, it might be longer, I'm not sure, till the next Star Wars film. And this is the one that a lot of people are not really anticipating now, because the big 3 are no longer part of the story, and you don't seem to have a main villain either, because Kylo Ren certainly isn't the main villain. I don't know what they're going to do, but I think there's going to have to be an announcement soon from Lucasfilm and where they're going.
Yeah, I think Episode 9 is absolutely pivotal for Star Wars going forward. I think they have to get this film right. They have to try and win the fans that are disenfranchised and divided and feeling left out. They need to win them back on side, because if they don't, then good luck to them going forward, because they're just going to get boycott after boycott, and the pressure's going to ramp up on Kathleen Kennedy. Now, I wouldn't be averse to seeing her stepping down into another role and letting Dave Filoni into that role. We've spoken about it umpteen times before. This is a guy that gets Star Wars. He knows how to please fans of the series. I don't know if it's the case, but it seems to me that in recent times they're doing their best to try and bring in new fans at the expense of people who have been fans of this series for 30 years, 40 years. The type of people that will turn up to a cinema on opening night and then they'll go and watch it another 2 or 3 times over the opening weekend and really bolster the box office. They've spat in the people's faces really by telling them that they're racist because they don't like the film. Now, there certainly probably was racist and sexist elements of the criticism in there, but I think the overwhelming majority were just disappointed in some of the decision making, throwing out some of the plots that were heavily hinted at, and obviously killing off Luke Skywalker. So I think they have to get this Episode 9 story absolutely bang on. They have to save the day, maybe not save the day, but they have to get it right and get these fans back on side. Whether Kathleen Kennedy's capable of doing that, and whether she's going to be too arrogant and petulant and just say, no, I'm doing it my way, time will tell. But I completely agree that it is going to affect the 2 a year strategy. That's not going to happen now. I think one of the executives from Disney or Lucasfilm has now come out and says that they are probably going to have to lengthen the time between films now because of this performance. But I have seen recently a lot of comparisons between this and the MCU, Star Wars and the MCU, and I read an absolutely fantastic article that broke down just why you can't compare the two. The MCU is the MCU. They've got 30, 40, 50, 60, sometimes more, 70 years worth of stories to mine out of, and they're excellent stories. So they are completely different to Star Wars. Star Wars is, I think they say in that article, doing things in reverse to the MCU. They are building stories out of the original films, whereas the MCU are building whole new films, individual character driven films out of years upon years of stories. So you can't compare those two, they're totally incomparable. I think it's now clear you're not going to get multiple Star Wars films in a year for a very long time, at least until we get someone like Dave Filoni in, who's going to appease large sections of the fan base, and then as a result see more profitable and successful films in the box office. But I digress, I've not got much more to add. It's doing very poorly. It's a shame, because it's actually a good film, and it deserves to do much better. I think my prediction of 700-800 million would have been much more fair on the film, but I digress. Sadly, it's not happened. And that just brings us to the end of this week's special edition of the Force Friday show, where we've obviously broke down and discussed Solo, a Star Wars story. We would just like to thank you for listening to us once again. We'll be back next week. Remember guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then do subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment on and share the videos. You can also find us on iTunes and the Google Play Store at the Movie Burner Podcast, and give us a little follow on Facebook and Twitter at Movie Burners. If you fancy a spot of casual reading, then all our latest written reviews and the occasional article can be found at movieburnerintertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.